Hola chicos, Culture Friday. So we're going to start out with where we left off with Semana Santa. So Semana Santa was last weekish, week before last, and there was Easter Sunday, and April Fair is a huge party. So Semana Santa was kind of like a little, and then there's Easter, you're like, woohoo, now April Fair. So it takes place in the same show, you kind of what we're going to talk about today. So April Fair is like really the Del Mar Fair on steroids. It has a fair, but then it has these kind of living rooms called casetas, and you're going to see them here in a little bit. He's dressed up, the gentlemen are in suits and ties, and then everybody starts to dance all night long, because I don't think Spaniards really go to sleep, to be honest with you. And we already learned how to do some of these flamenco moves, so you will be pro when you go to Spain. So let's talk a little bit before you watch that full video today, and so that way you'll know what you're actually seeing and you know a little bit about the history. Okay, so we're going to talk about Feria de Abril, and again we're going to go to Spain. We're going to be in the same part of Spain that we were in when we talked about Semana Santa. So now we're going to go all the way from San Diego way down here, and we're going to make our way down here again to Andalusia. Spain's about the size of Texas. It's not really that big. So when we think of countries, we always think of big places, but not true. All right, so we're going to head down to Seville, which is Sevilla in Spanish, and let me show you where Andalusia is. And this whole orange thing is Andalusia. That is a community in Spain, and then it's broken up into these little regions. Sevilla, or Seville in English, and it's the city, the region of Seville, and then also the city of Seville. So that's where the processions from Holy Week took place, and that's where Feria de Abril is taking place. Okay, it used to be a cattle and horse fair. It was an agricultural fair where they did horse trading, and so you'll see posters like this one that kind of tell you the history about what it used to be. But now it's changed into something a little bit different. So let's see, where should we start? Let's talk about like how it's like ours. It's like the Del Mar Fair, but it really is massive. The fairgrounds themselves, those little houses that you saw, are one on top of each other, all on this side of the fairgrounds. And then on the other side of the fairgrounds, so this is like an aerial view of it, on the other side of the fairgrounds, there are like Ferris wheels and all the crazy junk food that people like to eat in fairs. And it's really, after Holy Week, it's just really a time to blow off some steam and have fun with your friends. Fortunately, because of COVID, it has been canceled, and usually war and you know, bad, like the Civil War, that not our Civil War, but Spanish Civil War, the Feria was canceled. So it is canceled this year, unfortunately. So if we try to look up any videos, you're going to have to look for 2019. Everybody gets dressed up, the big people, and we're going to talk about where those costumes come from, because that goes all the way back to the 1600s in Spain. All right. The first day of the fair, you have this thing called the alumbrao. And in southern Spain, they have this interesting accent. And any word is pronounced au, alumbrao. This means the lighting. And this is like the gate or the main entrance to the fair. Can you try and guess what this is made of? It's not wood. No, not plaster. Cardboard. This whole thing is made out of cardboard, and it has lights embedded in every single one of these places. So the first night the April Fair is open, they are going to do, just like our Times Square kind of ball drop, they're going to light up the entire place. Not only the front gate, but they're going to light all the casetas. And you can kind of see that in this photo over here. The lights start to go on, and then they go on one by one by one, and it's really a big to-do. There are about 1 million different lights and little lanterns that are lighting the whole entire fairground. So the daytime is particularly, I can try and get this here, hold on one sec. So the daytime starts out with these horse parades. So you'll see everybody dressed up in their tradition, costumes. I shouldn't call it that. It's called indumentaria. We don't have a word for that, but I don't know, national costume of Spain or the community costume of Spain. So they get dressed up. They bring out their horses and old carriages. The ladies are dressed up. The gentlemen are dressed up. And everybody comes in from the farmlands around Seville because there's lots of bull ranches and horse ranches. I'm going to show you that in a second. This is kind of, I guess, very similar to Texas. It looks like Texas too. It's very flat in that part of Spain, which is not true in all of Spain. But the young people, the old people, everybody's dressed up in these traditional clothing. There are bullfights that happen too, usually around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a very typical time for bullfights to start. They always say that the only thing that starts on time is the bullfight in Spain. People like to get to parties and things much later than we do. So usually 2 or 3 hours later, if someone's inviting you over to their home or invites you out, they're not being late. That's the way it is. You tell them to be there at 5 and they will be there at 7. So make sure that you are not upset about that stuff. Otherwise, there's going to be culture clash. Let's talk about those costumes. This is just so beautiful. In this part of the world, you have a lot of faiths and cultural groups coming together like we talked about last time. So in this part of the world, you have Arab North Africans mixing with Jewish people, mixing with Christian people. And so you have a lot of layers of people that have come into this part of the world. You've got lots of battles, the Moors against the Christians, so you've got the North Africans against the Christians. And remember, we talked about the Catedral de Sevilla and how that used to be a mosque and now it's a church tower. Some of you asked some really interesting questions about how do they change the churches? Well, here's one example. This is the Cathedral of Córdoba. This was just a city in the next region over. And this used to be a Muslim mosque. And then what they did is you can see a little tip of an altar that's just kind of plopped in the middle of all this beautiful Muslim architecture, or they call it in Spanish, mozárabe. All right, the costumes. Let's look at what people used to look like way back in the 15 and 1600s. So right here is what the costumes used to look like. This kind of very floppy beret and lots of handmade lace and the alpargatas, which are very Spanish. But that also has another costume. Their other kind of costume is this like riding costume, which for men and women is just a little bit different. Remember, we talked about the Duquesa de Alba, who was very, very wealthy. Here she is in her costume. Again, she just passed away. And the traditional hat is this kind of like, I call it a Hershey's Kiss, because to me that's what it looks like, a little Hershey's Kiss, and it's rolled up. And you wear this hat with a kerchief, and then you kind of put it to the side. So you put the kerchief on first to hold down your hair because it is really hot. It's like California and Texas weather. And then you take the little Hershey's Kiss and you put it to the side, and that's standard headgear. So there's lots of choices that you could choose to wear. A more modern version of that is the men and the women dress really beautifully. So if you don't want to wear the most traditional, then you can wear something like this. Now, typically we wouldn't go to the Del Mar Fair looking like this, but as you can see, young people, old people really get dressed up. even if it's kind of like shabby chic dressed up. But the women are always dressed so gorgeously. All right. More costumes that we can look at, and ladies can choose a variety of different things in this part of Spain. They wear the flower right smack on the middle of their head. They have these smaller versions of the peinete, which is the comb, and they usually put them in the back of their hair, and you can see all the different styles. Typically in the old days, the smaller the polka dot, the younger the woman, the larger the polka dot, the older the woman. So that still goes today. Here you can see a more modern version of the peinete in the back of her hair. So each year the costumes and the colors, they like acid green when I was there in, I think it's 2003 and 2006. Acid green was like the really coolest color lately, but that's not very traditional. But each year things get changed around. This area, especially in Cádiz, the next town over is Jerez. This is where sherry was invented, and the English people couldn't say the word Jerez, so they changed it to sherry, and that's where we get modern sherry. So you'll see a lot of people carrying this little glass of sherry and drinking it's a fortified wine. It just has more alcohol than your typical wine in there, but it's not like a hard alcohol. The most famous makers of sherry are the Domecqs, and they again are another wealthy landowning family, and they have been in Spain for many, many centuries, and they still have vineyards that raise sherry grapes. This place is also one of beautiful mountain range that backs up, and wonderful bull ranches and horse ranches. This is where your Andalusian horses come from. Now, I have the privilege of knowing a very famous photographer who is an American, but he lives in Spain, and he has a bull ranch and a horse ranch in Spain. And so I was lucky enough to go with my daughter Kate, my older daughter. And this is Robert Vaver, and he's a very famous photographer. If you want to Google him, you can see all his gorgeous work. And I was lucky enough to ride a few of his stallions, and it was a great experience. Kate and I had a great time because we are horse lovers, so this is a wonderful place for us to be. All right, so bullfighting is still done in Spain and many parts of the world. Portugal does not kill the bull, Spain does, and there still is a lot of protesting going on with animal rights groups not to have bulls in the ring and used for sport. This bullfighting goes way back. When we're going to talk about art, this bullfighting goes way, way back, even to the first Iberos. That's why it's called the Iberian Peninsula, because the Iberos settled there. The Iberos, bulls were intrinsic to their eating and their livelihood. So it has been around since the first peoples were in Spain. So it's going to be hard to get rid of. There's a lot of money that's tied to bullfighting, a lot of tourism that's tied to bullfighting. So it's going to take probably another generation before bullfighting ends. So typically a day is watch the cabalgata, which is the parade, then hang out at the feria, and then you're going to go to the casetas and hang out with your friends and dance and eat the night away. Each one of these casetas is an organization, either a church organization or a group of friends, and it basically is taking your living room and plopping it in the fairgrounds. So you don't have to go back home. You can spend the whole day at the fair, and then you can go get something to eat, something to drink. You can sit down, and then you just dance the night away, and then you're going to do that dance that I taught you, I don't know, what was it, 3 months ago when we did flamenco dancing? So it is the first version of flamenco dancing, the Sevillanas. And if you look up online, or you click on this presentation. Over here on the videos, it's how to actually do the dances that they do in the caseta. So when you visit Spain, you will have something fun to do. That is April Fair, and it is an absolute joy to go to. My daughter, I taught her this lesson years and years ago, and then she calls me when she was doing her study abroad, and all I hear is all this noise on the telephone, and, on the speaker. Music and flamenco music and people talking, and my daughter goes, Mom, I'm at April Fair. I'm having the best time of my life. Click, and she hangs up the phone. So please make sure that you watch the video, the little Rick Steves thing, and he'll take you through so you can see what April Fair is like. And watch the video, and I think I have another video that's there. So go on the lesson plan for today and look at all those really cool things to do, because hopefully one day you'll get to go experience it for yourself. Okay? Have a great Friday and a great weekend.